Good morning. How's everybody doing? That's weak. Come on, guys. How's everybody doing today? All right, there we go. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. I am Luke. I'm one of the community organizers, as well as Courtney and Kyle up here. We're missing a couple people this morning, but welcome to West Platte High School, Olathe Northwest High School, Shawnee Mission, and Shawnee Mission South High School. Yeah, it's on two different lines, so I thought it was... Oh, and thank you so much to Chris for his amazing guitar playing this morning. Yeah. Who's here for the first time? Raise your hand. All right, thanks for coming. So 1 Million Cups is a community organization put on by the Kauffman Foundation where we get two entrepreneurs or two businesses to get up and talk about their company. We then open it up to the expert panel for feedback, and then we open it up to all of you guys for feedback. So you'll be able to raise those hands and ask questions to the presenters directly. With that being said, let's open it up to the expert panel. Introduce yourself. 2-second delay. Yep. Here.
Can you hear me now?
One more.
Now can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. My name is Rebecca Goebbels, and I work for the Digital Sandbox, as well as UMKC's Small Business and Technology Development Center, and I'm looking forward to the morning. Feel free to come meet me during the networking after.
Good morning. My name is Grant Gooding. I'm a founder of a marketing research company called Proof. Our company helps business owners and entrepreneurs know and not guess with their very critical and very expensive marketing efforts by utilizing customer surveys to help them understand what's truly in the hearts and minds of their customers.
Awesome. All right, don't forget to download the 1 Million Cups app and check in. You can also rate our presenters after they are done. With that being said, let's hear it for Corey with Raft Up. Give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Is this on? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm wearing it. Good morning. How about that? Is that better? Is that better? All right. Good morning. My name is Corey Bulkin, CEO and founder of Raft Up, your local outdoor community on the water. A little bit about me. I'm from Arkansas. I grew up in Arkansas most of my life. My path to entrepreneurship, like most people, don't generally start out like geniuses in high school or younger. Mine involved getting a job at 14 and working for a gentleman named John Eastwald. He started Bushels Lake Boat Dock in north central Arkansas, and he was the hardest working entrepreneur I've ever met in my life. Till the day he died, he was working in full-length Dickie outfits in August. The next entrepreneur and inventor, and some of you may know, Dean Kamen. He is a well-known inventor. I had an opportunity through a first robotics program when I was in high school to go work for him. I worked for him for several years, worked out of his house on some of the inventions that he had up in New Hampshire. And he's an inspiration on knowing what is important and working on what is important. My education involves the University of Arkansas, Kauffman Fast Track program. Before I went into the entrepreneurship with this idea, I wanted to validate it and put my ego aside and go through a startup venture education, and so I did that. And then locally in Little Rock, there's a venture center, just like most ecosystems. You build your community, you build your family, and that's where I found mine. And then my background and professional experience is in a company called Axiom, where they're a world-class Fortune 500 data analytics company, and Merkle, which is a marketing performance agency, and that's where I got my background. And a little bit about me. So the problem that we're solving, I've got two sad stories and one good story. Last year, Craig Strickland, the country music singer, went duck hunting in December. He tweeted to his members and said, "Into the storm," and was found 4 days later, dead. Two young gentlemen went out on a boat in Jupiter, Florida. They texted to their mother. They posted an image to Instagram and said, "Peace out, Jupiter, Florida," and were never found since. And lastly, this is DJ Khalid. Anybody know DJ Khalid? Well, well-known producer, musician, was leaving his friend's house in Miami, Florida, left on he loves to ride Sea-Doos, Sunset, gets out there, gets lost. And then he's Snapchatting how lost he is and how afraid he is. You can download this video, you can see the fear in his eyes. What these three people have in common is A, they're interacting with their mobile phones, social media, when they're on the water and they need help and their families or friends could find them. Well, I'm proud to introduce the fact that we're going to solve this problem by identifying and how do we resolve location awareness issues. There are 4,400 incidents every year, resulting in $39 million worth of property loss and damage. And did you know that it takes, at least at the quickest, 3 times longer for emergency responders to get to you? We've built a mobile and cloud-based solution connecting customers, individuals together on the water, businesses like marinas to find out where their renters are, and emergency personnel to know where you are in real time better than the current 911 system, all using a mobile platform. Jeff Dorhauer, Fire Chief for Osage Beach and Lake of the Ozarks. I know this is a long eye read, but if you want to hear, basically it breaks down to, when I heard about you, I saw that this was going to help our department keep our boaters safe on the water because we could improve our response time, and everyone takes their phones with them everywhere. There is no reason for a boater to be stranded for hours. This is a no-brainer. So now, in partnership with them and Lake of the Ozarks, we're now monitoring 54,000 acres of Lake of the Ozarks with a real-time SOS capability in their 911 center, and all of their responders can get to you and track you. Our market is close to 89 million individuals in the US. That's 1/3 of every person in the United States that participated in recreational boating. There are 36 million people that own a boat or rented a boat. And in the Delta region around Arkansas, there are around 10 million individuals that fit that profile. Our traction, I went to a startup weekend. Obviously, Kauffman Fast Track was my education. I raised friends and family funding. We started development. We launched this Memorial Day of this last year with a quiet launch on an iOS mobile app. We actually did on-the-water food delivery service, 4th of July of this last year. You could order food at a restaurant just to test it out, and we had it delivered to your boat. I'm probably the only one that's ever done that. We have an Android app device now, and now we just released our Web 911 platform, which is into a dispatcher that told me this. This is currently faster and better than what they have in their center, folks. All right, our competition in other app space, Navionics and Spot. Spot is a satellite service. You can buy the unit itself, very expensive, and then there's a monthly service. Navionics and Active Captain, those are apps as well. They provide you points of interest and navigation, really not geared for everybody in the boat. And then Boat US and Cito, they're not competitors, but what we can do is partner with them to provide them individuals that are lost, stranded, broken down, and they can get help easily with our platform. Mobile application, access to over 30,000 points of interest across the United States. You can find your friends and family, no longer having to play cat and mouse with each other. Notify help, get help immediately, and it's going to save you time. Folks, I love this application because I turn it on, I put it in my glove compartment, and my friends just show up. I don't have to be near my phone all the time trying to find out where they're at. Lastly, here's our dashboard that we just launched. It gives a visual view about who you are, your emergency situation, how many people in the boat with you, the reason. We can potentially connect to your information about your life, your situation, your body, and they'll be able to see who you are and what the resultant incident could be and respond effectively. And you can log in and try out our dashboard right now. We make our money through advertising, location-based geo-advertising. We have subscription services with 911 centers, businesses like marinas, and we are about to launch a retail e-commerce lifestyle brand in January, where you just show up, pick out your items, who you are, and they make it and deliver it to you. My name is Corey Bulkin, the CEO and founder of the company. My team of co-founders, we have over 15 years of experience in Fortune 500 building app solutions, accounting for software companies, building architecture for Fortune 500s. We have an advisor in Northwest Arkansas named Jeff Amorine. He's a great advisor to us in understanding our business. We're actually seeking some strategic advisement or board members, so if you know of anyone that's in the recreational boating space or has any influence in potentially public safety, please let me know afterwards. Folks, stay safe, have fun. Wrapped up.
Corey, what's up, brother?
Hey.
So first I want to compliment you on having a simple and cohesive presentation. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
So here's probably my biggest question, which is, you started off and you identified a very clear and concise problem, and then it seemed to get diluted as you went on. Because what the hell does delivering food on a boat have to do with making sure that people are safe when they're on the water?
No, it's a good point. Can I answer that one, or you
Yeah,
want me to
of
hold off? So the reason why a food delivery service that just delivers food on the land said, hey, Corey, I've got a great idea. Could we do this? We could deliver the food for you. We download the app. We get the icon, and we can do this. And I go, this would prove out my emergency response tracking capability. Okay, I'll do this. I can get users, I can get press, and they're going to prove a real world problem. I could care less about delivering food, but I really care about getting people to where they're out on the water and testing that out. And
Okay, that's an important point. So then, follow-up question to that then is the intent of this app to increase the speed of emergency folk, or is it to kind of crowdsource rescue on the water?
It's both. So safety isn't sexy. Nobody just downloads a safety application. Everybody knows 911. Most people don't know that when you call 911 for any other ancillary situation, if it's not life-threatening, you're really out on your own. So it's a combination. It's a social SOS, and if it's a life-threatening SOS, it'll immediately target to a 911 call center, also your friends and family, and anyone around you in 5 miles.
So I think then there's a pretty big barrier to entry problem that you're going to be facing, which is, to your point, safety isn't sexy, right? Like, that DJ guy is not going to have this app sitting on his phone, but that's the guy that probably needs it.
Well, actually, this allows people that are boating, hanging out with each other, find each other and go to those things. So they would actually go to use it, and I've done quite a lot of validation. And boaters are like, you mean I can find out where the party is, or I can go to Party Cove, or see where each other is? Because the biggest problem is everybody's communicating and not, and they love that.
Right, so we're getting into scope creep now, which is an awful, horrible problem, especially for technology products, which is, that is not even close to what you're setting out to accomplish here, which I think is a lucrative and valid, problem. I think it's great.
That's why we're going after safety first. It attracts people into safety. And then as we bring in the ancillary sticky features, or what they would love about it, that's where we want to go. Like, what brings them back to the application? What would be fun about the application? Safety pays the bills, and people want safety, so we're going to have to go that way for a little bit.
So when it comes to not only traction, but also transition, right? You want to sell this, don't you?
I'm sorry?
You want to sell this, don't you? Yeah, you do.
No.
Yeah, you do.
No.
You should. So when it comes to both of those things, the value and the power of your application is inversely proportionate to its scope. So the less it does, the more it's worth.
I totally agree with you on that.
So right now, what you're explaining is it does a lot.
Yeah.
And so, and that was probably my only biggest critique. I think you've identified a great problem, and I hope you stick to that problem.
Thank you.
I had some questions regarding your sales and marketing strategies, as it seems that you have a consumer play and also a business-to-business play. I want to know what people and what initial tactics to get you to the critical mass to have enough people care for the advertising model you've chosen.
Right. So we're initially hyper-focused on the safety tracking capabilities. So we wanted to first solve the problem for emergency and marinas. The value proposition, let's just start with marinas first. And that's where I started. I created a partnership with a marina. The value proposition for a marina saying, hey, we've got new people that are not used to our area. They're going out on our water, and they're always asking us, where should we go? And I've done that because I used to work at a marina. And then the biggest problem for a marina is at 5 o'clock when the boats should be coming home, they're not. Either they're lost or there's something else going on, and so they have to send resources out to get them and spending money and time. And so what I do is I solve two problems. One, I give the customer a place where to go and see on the water, an interactive experience, and I give that marina the ability to see them. So when I go to a marina, I establish it, I have some marketing material, it's a brick and mortar, and they require their renters, with my partners, to download and use the app. So that's one approach.
So you said is this a staffing model of one for
Yeah,
all
right
the
now it
marinas?
is.
Tell me more.
This is a totally bootstrapped company. like I said, we just launched on Memorial Day.
So if we were to give you $1 million, what would be the sales and marketing distribution to reach the advertising critical mass that you'll need?
So what we're now doing to get into the advertising reach is we're partnering with media companies. We'll take their advertisers, and we'll take their ads for some of their customers. So if they're broadcast marketing or print, we take those customers, we'll do banner ads in time of days and seasonality. They in turn promote our application through their channels. So that's one approach.
To your B2B side or your consumer-facing side, or is that the strategy for both?
That's one, well, yeah. So from a B2B approach, I haven't really dove into it. I've been trying to build the product that gets product market fit. But this is now the conversation I'm having with media agencies to promote it, but also from a B2B and agency approach, who in public agency and public service, who are they working through to get the message out?
Got it.
But then it's also a direct sales approach. The thing is about marinas, they're owned by mom and pops.
Exactly.
They're not a lot of corporations, so it's a slow grow.
So I would close with this thought, that if they have the most reach for the immediate amount of users, the approach you've described is consumer-facing, and then you told me that reaching them one-on-one is the big deal, though. So I would encourage you to think about how to merge those efforts towards first the people who can get you 30 downloads at a time instead of the one at a time path.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'll open
totally,
it up.
totally agree with you. Yeah.
All right, we're going to open it up to the audience. If you have a question, just raise your hand.
I got one.
I got one up front. I'm
I
quicker.
got one right here. Oh. Luke.
I won. So I have been involved with the 911 system for a long time, and I'm assuming you understand how it started and what its purpose was. And it looks like you have developed a really creative way of using the mobile app to do better than the 911. So the question I have for you is, the federal government, and especially the FCC, moves in slow and mysterious ways. But do you have a concern that at some point they may just come up with a system, a universal 911, let's call it, that provides a lot of the same features that you do?
I would actually love for that to happen. I would love it. Bring it on, build it. I think we all could result and impact it. If I have any influence in it, then I would love to have a hand in that. The biggest problem with water response, 911, and this is a conversation you can have with anyone with fire and water rescue, is they are back seat. They are not front seat. They're responding to ambulance and police calls all the time. So when you're stranded on the water, you're a recreational person. Yes, it may be an accident, but the systems aren't in place to allow that rural responder to get there immediately. And even the conversation, we're deploying in Little Rock, Arkansas, in the Pulaski County, which is the county in which Little Rock resides. And they said, Corey, I don't want you to go talk to our 911 call center because we always sit back seat and we're the only ones that respond to these situations. So there are some situations where these fire departments are going to be operating this monitoring service themselves. And so that's the challenge. It's all politics. And I just got off a phone call with an OEM, Office of Emergency Manager Director, just yesterday, Morgan County in Missouri. And he goes, Corey, you mean we're going to be all on the same platform? You know how many disparate 911 platforms are out there, folks? It's scary. And most rural areas can't afford the system. This is a low-cost, secure way to get in there, share your location. But at the first and foremost, it's a fun application. It's a community you can enjoy. It's a local community. So when you do need help, you can get it, or at least notify it. That's friends, family, and those. So, sorry, back to your, yes, build it. Please build it.
Okay, we've got another question for you in the way back on the left.
I have two questions. If you're on the ocean, how far out will your app work? If I don't have phone service, will it still work? And how can they find me? Or if my boat goes down, I'm in the water, can they still find me?
Sure.
And then if I'm on the Lake of the Ozarks and I send off my beeper, how do I know the Water Patrol is going to come to me versus some guy 100 yards away that's ordered some beer?
Yeah, so good question. So I'll ask you the answer to the first one. If you're going to go out further than 12 miles, you're an offshore boater, you're going to generally plan for that, and you can afford something called an EPRB, which is like a satellite transponder device. So that's something. We're focusing on the individuals that don't pay for those items. those expensive items or pay for a backcountry service. We're really just utilizing, we're a free application that can get you help, and so that's who we're going after. Lake of the Ozarks, what we're doing is we're changing the way the alert goes out, so depending on what you've chosen as an alert, like an emergency, a fire, or an accident, that'll immediately go to 911, but if you want to socially notify individuals about your incident, you have that option to do that. And you have the option to say if you want to respond or get those alerts. So that's in the application as well. That would go directly to the food service if we were to partner with them. I did the food delivery service just to test if we could do the location tracking and response. But yeah, to your point, it would only go to that service provider. Or if that marina rented that boat and that person broke down, they only want that message to come to the marina. It would be very embarrassing for somebody to come up and help that customer. Great question.
Right up here up front.
I know if I went to a boat safety class, they could teach me safety about a boat and how to operate it and all, because I don't know anything about boats, but I want to buy a boat, so I can go through a class and all that. Sounds like a good way to market this type of thing. And then once I buy a boat, I have to get it annually tagged and all. I don't know if you can provide stickers that when you pick up your tag, you also get something about this.
Yeah, that would be great. I think we're a little too early for the agencies to. You're a young startup and you're doing what? We're trying to have those early conversations with Arkansas, Missouri now. But to your point, I mean, who uses a VHF radio these days? But they're on boats and they tell you to use it. So I totally agree with your point. I'd love to be able to get to that point.
Okay, we've got another question for you over here against the wall.
Hey, I'm just curious if you're able to communicate with other users within the app for multiple reasons, as simple as like, let's link up and have beer, or like if you have the equivalent of a boating flat tire, you don't need to wait for the Coast Guard and you can just holler at somebody on the app that's close by.
Right, so we're deploying a messaging capability later this summer. We want to try to utilize, if you can add friends in the application, and if you already have your friends, and I know that you said the community, but your friends, if you already had your friends in text messaging, I don't want to spend the time and effort to solve that problem just yet. But we continually hear that as well now. And one thing I didn't mention, we will provide weather alerts. We actually will provide real-time water updates from the USGS and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we'll tell you water temperature and flow rate and those things. So it's really it's a Swiss Army knife. And the thing is, the reason why I built it with so many things is because this is exactly what the boater needs. And I know that because I am one. I'm a scuba diver, a professional scuba diver, and I built the Swiss Army knife for the boater that needs the Swiss Army knife.
Question back here.
Sure.
Hey, Corey, great presentation. You got my interest because, well, for two reasons. I love boating, and I have a place down Lake of the Ozarks, and I know Fire Chief Jeff real well down there.
Fantastic.
But tell us a little bit more about your background. How did you get into this?
Yeah.
Do you have a boating background?
I do. My boating my first job, well, I grew up boating with my family, house boating, sailing. I had a Hobie catamaran. I've been operating boats most of my life. At 14, I was working at a marina. I managed a marina, Bushels Lake Boat Dock, when I was in college. I was driving 65-foot houseboats when I was 14. How many of you have driven a 65 houseboat in wind and bad weather? Yeah, there's a few of us, but it's difficult and challenging. I do have some coastal experience. I'm not a six-pack, card-carrying Coast Guard boater, but if I sat down and studied, I'd probably get it. So that's my background. I've lived it. I also teach scuba diving and have a rescue certification in that area. So I think I'm well-versed, both river, streams, coastal, and lake.
Great, Corey, got another question for you here in the middle.
Sure, thanks.
Actually, it's not much of a question, it's more of a statement. I'm also a lifelong boater from the ocean to the Ozarks to little tiny Lotawana. I would say that the question that was asked earlier about having the bleed from the strategy from working on the rescue to then the social apps, I think, in my opinion, is a good bleed. And the reason I think it's good is that I would use that if I were out boating. I'd use it socially, And believe me, I've run out of gas, I've rescued people who have run out of gas, I've had engine problems, something's caught fire. All of those have happened that I've participated in. If I had an app that I was accustomed to using for other things, I would remember to use it rather than downloading it on my phone and thinking, I know I downloaded something, but I have 70 apps and I can't figure out which one it was. So, and I got the EPIRB thing, I get all that. This is not to replace an EPIRB. I think this is a really cool solution that I would download.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right here in the middle.
So you said you were starting in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Why start in the Midwest and not on the coast?
I'm a landlocked salt who loves the water. Look at it this way. I live in Little Rock, and that's where my family is. And what better place to start in an area? There's really not a lot of focus. And actually, I found it to be beneficial, not saturated with all these navigation guys. It's a real need. So start where you're at. You don't have to go to the coast. I've been invited out to the coast to pitch Raft App. And my numbers aren't high enough yet, but they love it, you know. And to the other point, if you manage your brand, you get your brand out there and you're solving a valid problem, it doesn't matter where you're at. You'll get customers, you'll grow. And if you do get an investor that wants you to come to the coast, great. I can go to the coast then at that point, but I live in Arkansas.
Right here?
Good question.
What was that movie a few years ago with Robert Redford? He was out on a...
Oh yeah, the sailboat, I forgot.
How would this have helped him?
Well, if he's further than 12 miles, I don't think it would have helped him. If he had an EPIRB, okay, so anybody knows what an EPIRB is. Basically, it's a transponder device. If you hit the water, it goes up to a satellite, notifies Coast Guard, and they'll know where you're at by a GPS beacon, okay? Your phone, most phones these days are actually GPS devices. We're tracking your position every 20 seconds. It's a small amount of data that goes out. Even if you have one bar and you can't make a phone call, we actually can send your location as soon as you pop off a one-bar location. So so it would have helped him if he was in. It would have helped him if we would know his last known position, and that's where you can start, right? So 12 miles out is pretty far out. We'll actually even know where the direction in which you're traveling, the last known location. Even if your phone dies, we'll know your last known location. Question. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Fantastic. Great job, Corey.
Thank you.
Final
Thanks, everybody.
question. What?
Go
One
ahead.
more.
Oh, yeah.
Can't get away. Can't
I
get away
forgot
that
that
easy. What can we as a community do to help you and Raft Up?
Just download my application, would you mind? It's a free iPhone app, an Android application. Android's catching up with iPhone. If you know anybody that's in the boating space, either manufacturing, branding, or in public safety, if you know a legislature, if you're an avid boater, just let them know. It's just getting the word out is really important to us. And I'm looking for a board advisor, right? How do we stay true to our mission while at the same time building a social community? So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Great job. Thanks, Corey. All right, wonderful. We've got a couple of quick announcements for you guys. First, let's welcome up Mr. Matthew Marcus. Tell us what you got.
Thanks. I heard there was a bunch of Shawnee Mission students here. Any Lancers? Oh, darn. None of my alum. So I'm Matthew Marcus. I'm with the Kansas City Startup Foundation. You probably saw some cards that I put in your seat. We are a foundation nonprofit that's helping to kind of make Kansas City's startup ecosystem and community as awesome as possible so that when you guys graduate and you want to get into startup life, you don't have to go to the Valley or New York. We're going to have cool things right here. Of course, it takes a little bit of money to keep this dream alive, so we are having an end-of-year fundraiser where we're hoping just the community can help us raise $5,000. We've got matching sponsors who are going to match that $5,000, so just a little bit from everybody will go a long way. So thanks for the support.
Thank you, Matthew.
What's the what? Oh, it's ongoing. So it's not an event. It's just a fundraiser till the end of the year.
Good question, though. Rick Usher, why don't you come up and share what you've got going on?
All right, thanks. I'm Rick Usher, Assistant City Manager for Small Business and Entrepreneurship. And on December 13th, we have the Innovation Partnerships Demo Day. It'll be at the Sprint Accelerator at 5 o'clock. It's a Facebook event. I've tweeted that, so if you want to sign up for that, it's free. We'd love everybody to show up for it. Kate Garman, our innovation analyst in the Office of Innovation, has been managing this program. We've got 7 companies that have completed the program. It's Big Bang, Integrated Roadways, Palmerall Partners, Reality Technology, Sobra, Spider Oak, and StratX Solutions. And they've been working with city departments, and it's our kind of civic innovation program. So love to have everybody show up and support that.
Thank you so much. We have some more pretty awesome events that you can find on the back of these lovely announcement sheets. Couple things today, Co-working Wednesday at the Sprint Accelerator. I'll be there, come hang out. Always a good, fun environment with like-minded individuals. Smart Companies to Watch at the Downtown Marriott, that's also today. Coming up tomorrow at ECJC, reading team sheets and structuring a deal. Always good advice. And there's some other events. Second Fridays will be this Friday at the Village Square. Check that out. And Po Man's Challenge, which sounds super fun. That'll be December 13th at Think Big Co-working. And as always, definitely check out Matthews Casey Startup Foundation fundraising campaign. So next up, we're ready with Great American Kites. Please welcome the marvelous, the fantastic Sean Beaver.
You don't need me to take that, okay. Thank you, everybody. My name is Sean, and I hope I'm marvelous and fantastic. It's an honor to be here. I want to say shout out to all my friends and family that are watching on the simulcast. So the problem I'm trying to solve, you know, last weekend, my wife and I and my son got to have breakfast at a restaurant. I looked over and I saw a family of 4, and I just commented to my family, it's like, man, look at that, that's really cool. They're all sitting down and their heads are bowed and they're all praying, and I just thought that was really neat. And then I looked again and I realized they were all texting, right? And so, an interesting vantage point, being in the back, you can see how many people are literally on Facebook during their presentations today. So I like to tell people I'm in the community engagement business. Today I'm going to talk about literally a 3,000-year-old toy where we figured out how to use wind and make money with it, right? So that's my opening preamble. And so a little bit about me. I'm from Kansas City, K-State guy, Army veteran, combat veteran in Iraq. I got an amazing family, probably the best looking guy in the room. And we live in a small rural community north of town called Polo. So our company was founded last year. I've been in and around the kite business. And let me tell you, first of all, to give you some perspective, forget what you're thinking about kites. The kites I fly are larger, literally, than the room we're in, and we fly some of the largest kites in the world. And so it's truly a unique offering for communities that are really starving, or not just communities, but maybe existing events that are finding themselves with events with low participation or maybe low community engagement. And we really come in and take those that are on life support from an event attendance and engagement standpoint, and we resuscitate them with some pretty amazing show. And so we have 3 employees. I would tell you 90% of what we do is on the weekends, and it gets even more interesting. My season is from basically mid-March to mid-October. If you're doing the math, it's 32 weekends, right? So 2 times 34, Saturday, Sunday, that's 64 man days that I have to make money. And so our business plan is wrapped around a 64-day schedule. And so we provide entertainment. We're based, licensed and incorporated in Missouri, and we have 3 revenue channels. Our performance fee, which is our fee to show, and as I like to tell my wife, it's like I'm Dave Matthews on stage, and I'll put up the show in the air, and then we'll sell kites in the back, and in that case, it's almost like she's selling T-shirts at a band, and she hates me calling her to the T-shirt sales, but I love you, Steph. I know you're listening to me right now. So our market is pretty much, I break down the U.S. in these regions. We're pretty much those 4 states, so Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, and we come out and we do events for all sorts of different organizations, and we target 7,500 per event. So if you're doing the math, it's about $500,000 business to work 64 days a year. How we came up with our customer channels, we looked at cities and counties that all have, in each of those target states in phase 1 of our business plan, they all have different festivals, events, fairs, music, community, doesn't matter. We all know that there's potential out there, right? So I looked at each of those states and totaled up all those categories and then wrapped a business plan that basically says if we can convert on the phase 1, which is our 0 from this year to 3 years out, and focus on single small scale events, on-site retail, which is like bringing you gotta understand, a lot of our events we do may have 30,000 plus kids and families, right? So I want them off their their Facebook. I want them engaging each other. I want them really sharing a great memory with each other. By show of hands, anybody seen any of our events? Longview Community College, Lee Summit. All right, somebody in the back. What do you think? Awesome. So I've never met him before today, so that's a great testimony. So what I can tell you is, you look at our revenue goals, right? And I mean, I'm pretty transparent with this because I think that's why I'm here. I'm really good at putting an event up and getting 30,000 kids out and having a great time selling them kites, putting on the best kite show in North America. But I got a lot of things that I'm really terrible at, and that's what motivated me coming here. As our business plan matures, we'll do more events, we'll diversify, and we'll add some things like online retail. Literally everything that we've done this year in our first year is centered around targeting 34 events into next year. We've already done 17 this year. We had a terrific year. It's been, it couldn't have been a better launching for us. We partner with a lot of hot air balloon festivals, a lot of music festivals and those kind of things. We do a lot of local advertising. So my advice to you would be, if you haven't come to one of our events, you should really put it on your calendar. To give you some size perspective, the red whale that's in the photo is twice the length of the entire foundation building. It's about 290 feet long. So it's a massive structure. You can probably make out maybe some full-size vehicles right by his tail. And then we'll put up a whole variety of different events. This is a snapshot of just some of this. So if people ask me, well, who hires you guys to come out and do this kind of work? Better yet, I'll show you. From balloon festivals to Kansas City River Fest, Flights of Fancy. These are some of our core, what I would say 10-year plus relationships that through the Kansas City Kite Club and through our organization, we've been able to partner with and bring the community at large out. Some of the banner events up in the upper right-hand corner, you've probably seen these around town, the big American flag displays and those kind of things. We offer that as a service as well that have nothing to do with kites and everything to do with just making an amazing patriotic statement around 4th of July, Memorial Day, those kind of things, right? So we get a lot of requests for that, and we've done a lot of the decorations for some of the customers that you see up here. And then educational events. We'll do a lot of presentations on really what kites are and what value they offer, their history in meteorology or in military applications. And so we like to partner with a lot of schools, and that's another opportunity for us as well, and another way to engage. And so that's what we do really well. This is what I call my suck meter. This is what I really suck at. To give you some perspective, our business, we still don't even have we have a Facebook site. We don't have a website, and we're literally growing so fast, it's insane. So digital marketing strategy, and not just having a Facebook site and campaigns, but literally hashtag conventions. Let's get our head wrapped around what are we doing to get our message out? What's our channel for sales revenues within certain segments, right? Cities and counties and festivals and event organizers. How do we go out there and tickle them and do that? Everything we're doing now is strictly on a referral basis, and it's been great. It's actually far exceeded our expectations. How do we merchandise better? You know, at Flights of Fancy and Lee Summit last year, there's 35,000 kids and families that came out to that event. Literally, my wife and some other helpers were with us in our retail store, which I'll show you a picture of. But you physically can't take money fast enough. It's like the worst festival you've been to trying to get a beer or a funnel cake, or when you're hungry, the lines always seem like 40 minutes long, right? And so kids want the SpongeBob kites, and I'm talking the small ones, not the large ones. We put the show up and then want to make the kids have something fun to do too. And so we'll sell those, and we'll wholesale those from China and then sell them on site. We don't make those kites. The show kites are really I guess the brick and mortar operation. How do we get brick and mortar? How do we get it? Somebody asked me earlier, why don't you guys have a kite store? By a show of hands, who in their life has ever visited a kite store? Yeah, 5 of you, great. That's why I don't have a kite store. So I bring my store on site. I bring it, it's an opportunity buy. My target demographic is probably a 5 to 9-year-old. So once you can see my kites for 5 miles in every direction and your family comes out and you guys have a good time, you get off the Xbox, you get off your smartphone, and you actually spend some time together, I guarantee that 5 to 9-year-old is going to be shaking your hand going, Mommy, I want the Batman, Robin, Spider-Man, Frozen, whatever it may be. And so how do we merchandise that better? How do we integrate that with the point of sale system and a CRM online? Everything we're doing right now is 2 guys in a truck and a really, really great vision. We know the sun's going to shine on this opportunity, and it's just far exceeded everything we want to do. But we looked at how do we plan this business, which is the upper part of this, and this is kind of the reality. This is what I suck at, right? This is my journey. And you could just insert social media campaigns. You could insert merchandising and inventory management and customer relations. Those are the partners that we need as a business because the business demand is there. We just got to get our house in order, and that's what, again, motivated me to come down here, and I like to express it.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. We're just going to have to open it up to our expert panel this time.
Good. Expert panel.
You forgot to use air quotes around expert.
Okay. All right.
Sean, so I actually I've been to 2 of your events.
Great.
Not a plant.
Which ones?
The ones I live in Lee Summit, so
Okay.
I've had 2.
Good.
And they are really unbelievable.
Good.
I mean, and that's part of your problem, right? So if I say the word kite, the same image just popped into everybody's head. It's a diamond-shaped red thing with a string that comes down, and that's not a kite, right? So I think part of what is going to be your barrier is you need to redefine what this is. It's not a hot air balloon, it's not a kite, it's something else. And by doing that, you're going to be able to create your own market.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, I think there's an e-commerce play here because it's an event, right? It's not scalable at all. So you can make a good living doing these events, but you won't create a scalable business doing it. So do you have plans for an e-commerce platform?
I do. So this slide right here, which there's a lot going on, it's the best way to simplify it. In the first 3 years of our business, we're staring at a $500,000 opportunity focusing on events like Longview, on weekends, 64 man days a year. How many people would like to work 64 days next year and make $500,000, right? Okay, and that's net gain. That's gain after the cost of our wholesale kites that we sell. Remember, we get revenue in 2 ways. Being paid to come by the university to put up that show, right? Wear and tear of my $500,000 or $250,000 worth of kites, right? And then we make money selling kites, as you probably saw, the thousands of kids flying their kites that day, right? And so we want to focus on this in the first phase, want to get our house in order, and a lot of partnerships that are coming out of this are going to help us do that. But then looking at online retail and expanding and scaling it. Right now, we're turning down events. We had 3 weekends last year, or this year, I guess, that we had multiple requests for our show on days that we were already booked. So the weekend of Flights of Fancy, I've got to be there. How do I put a B team in Oklahoma? Or how do I put somebody in Iowa that can go out and do the same thing? And so the scalability is tough, but we see the online retail space as being a key to that.
So then why don't you create a licensing model where you can have people do their own events and they are required to buy like you control the inventory, right? Like that huge crab thing. So they have to buy that from you. So it's essentially a franchise model.
We could explore that. That's definitely something I would be open to. I think,
then I
always tell people I'm in the events business first, and right. And so if I'm true to my religion that way, the why for us is the 30,000 kids that come out and got off their phone and actually communicated, and you see them by the thousands every year. And this is something that I think if we get too far out of that scope, we lose the connectedness of the mile-long traffic that's here, that's coming to this event. There's a hook there, there's people coming. We've done really well. Keep in mind, if we sell, let's say just 2,000 kites, which is pretty realistic revenue, just for that day, right? That day, 2,000 kites with a $9 margin, that's a $20,000 day. Plus we get paid to come out and do the show that you see, right? And so we're trying to do that and then lock down all of our weekends. The scalability I see is booking us not just 64 days a year, in my opinion, and through our business plan, is scaling us into warmer climates that limit us here, right?
See, I would call that an incremental model, where it may seem like you're scaling, but you're really moving at a glacial pace.
Yep.
If you have a profitable model where you're getting paid to show up, you make money when you're there, this is an easy to sell franchise to me, and that's parabolic growth.
Yep.
So
that's I'd love to sit down and explore that. I'm an educated guy, but I probably can't speak as intelligently as the expert panel on that. As long as I'm true to keeping these kids by the thousands at our event, and we stick to that religion, that's the model that I want, because that's really what we saw on Saturday at breakfast, right? We saw families that don't get out and do this, right? How many guys in here would like to find a great way to have an expanded date day, right? Or, you know, your wives are like, hey, when are we gonna go out and have it? I guarantee you get a picnic basket, some wine and cheese, and a blanket. You don't even have to own a kite. Come to one of my events and I guarantee you won't complain. You'll have one of the best times you've had in a long time. I just don't want to divorce that too much, right? And so I fear that. And I mean, we don't need money. We're doing really good in that respect. And so it's how do we grow, but grow true to what we envision. And I think we got to balance that with some expert advice too. And I think that's what motivated me coming here and being encouraged to come here, quite frankly. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
So I have a question that's maybe a little less sexy, but in part related to the franchise model. Talk to me about the insurance requirements for this, because I have clients in the bounce house industry, and I know what that's about, and I imagine this is similar. Tell me more.
Very, very similar. So we have a general liability insurance policy, and we will list additionally insured each event and the event organizer, literally as each event, and some of them require that, quite frankly. In this picture, the 35,000 people that are here watching us, they're all staring up at our kites. You know, if someone puts a kite in a power line or someone trips and falls and we've got a medical emergency, those kind of things, we have to make sure that we meet the owner requirements of their on-site, in this case, the university. What are their general liability requirements? So we have an insurance partner and we channel with them, and they're really taking that scope from us, which has been great. If you'd asked me 24 months ago, we didn't have that code cracked, and it is a unique business. I remember sitting down with our insurance agent, explaining who we are and what we do and how we work, and he has not been to our events, and so it's really tough to explain this. I'd say 95% of the room thought diamond kites and kids kites like you had, and so it's hard to think. In fact, to put it in perspective from a liability standpoint, the average kite, this kite, if I hook this to my F-150, will tow the truck across the field. It's that powerful. These are not kites you hold on to, and so there's a lot of inherent risk, and that's part of why we get paid to do what we do. That's our show fee. That's for our labor, our wear and tear, our time, the liability. All of those things sort of justify our why from a value standpoint. We've actually been encouraged that maybe our $3,500 per day event fee is actually low, given, and they reference the bounce house industry, because if you want 10 bounce houses at your company or at your church or at your event, they're going to cost far more than what we do, and we got way more of an event. I would say analogous to us is the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. If you've ever seen that or been a part of any balloon festival, that's about what these kites look like when they're in the air and they're on the string. And so, does that give you guys some good texture? Does that help? Great.
Okay, we're going to open up questions to the audience. So if you have a question for Sean, please raise your hand. You want to get the guy in front?
I had a friend that took an early buyout in his company, and he was given $100,000 or something, but he didn't have enough money to open up a Chipotle's and all of that.
Yep.
And he and his wife didn't want to work full time. They wanted something that they could just work part time. And so this looks like a perfect thing, but they went through a list of all these franchises and worked with people to try to find the right franchise. And I agree, that it sounds like a perfect franchise model where you could control the quality and the stipulation of how to behave and what to do and all that.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, the way I'd answer that is this. Everybody take your hands out and do this real quick for me, right? Everybody. That means you, expert panel. Come on. Right, so now take out a third of that, because that's how much life you've already lived, right? Take out another third, because that's what you're going to work. This is what you have left in your life, right? And so you can take your hands down. But everything I do when I wake up in the morning has to do with maximizing that little time that I have, right? And so life's not a dress rehearsal. I'm going to finish with my fun meter on high, doing what I love to do with the kind of people and communities that the communities love this event, and we are totally in the right at doing that. I have no doubt the sun's going to shine on this opportunity, and we're going to continue to grow. I think by this time next year, we'll have exceeded our 3-year plan. By this time next year, I have no doubt we'll blow that goal out of the water. My biggest worry is scaling the right way and making sure we're true to what we want to do. And for me, I wanted to make sure that my weekends were spent in this opportunity, bringing kids and families together. And so if you haven't been to this event, trust me, you got to go. It's an absolute amazing event, and we see this probably being scalable in ways that we can't understand yet. But it's going to take some real expert advice at making sure we don't get too far from this. And I'd say those business meetings have to happen on the field with the kids and with the families, because that's where the perspective is. And anytime, you know, I think to me, it's tough to swallow a Chipotle pill versus what we do, because it's such a different experience. To give you an example, I tend not to do events where they charge people to pay, particularly when I say people. When you charge kids $10 attendance fee to watch kites, it just seems dirty to me, right? So I want to do events that are free, and corporate America should be sponsors, like one of the photos that I showed you earlier. They should help these events raise money, because that's their social responsibility. We'll put up a hell of a show, and I'll have 10,000 plus kids having the best day of their childhood. How many of you have a child memory with a kite, right? A lot of people do, a lot of you. And so that's what I always say in short, we're in the amazing memory business. So I don't know if that's the right franchise opportunity. This is about 10,000 pounds worth of nylon in our trailers. So it takes someone there's a lot of people out there with a lot of IQ, but I'll tell you, there's not a lot of people out there with a lot more want to than me. And it's grit. It comes down to really wanting this. And I work my butt off to make sure we put up a great show for all these kids that are there, from the design and completion stage, where you can see this kite being made. Again, it gives you some size perspective, and to when we get out in the field. This is an example of an on-site retail. This is a lot of our revenue that comes out of that. So you can imagine the kids coming up and wanting to buy the kites that we have.
We have another question here in the back, sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi, I agree with Grant on two things. One is, first of all, I really appreciate your passion and your values are really bleeding through, and I commend you on that you're really focused on doing these family things and getting back to values. And I think when he suggests the franchise, you want to get these families together. And I know when I hear you, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm already in that. But when I get done with that business, I'm going, you know, the reason I want to be an entrepreneur is because I have 3 little kids. I want to spend all my time with them. And I look at what you're doing and I think, we could do that. We could go to a different part of the country. I think you're missing some families that want to join you in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I really want to echo with what Grant's saying is the name. I think about like Hatchimals. I don't even know what they do. I just know that even on like the Craigslist market, they're going for $200, and they're not being called new chia pets or new growing sponges or whatever it is that they are. And you're talking about bounce houses. I know immediately that's not a walled trampoline. I mean, they're not marketing themselves as walled trampolines. And I think if you could find whatever weird name it is that people instantly go, that's Sean's thing, that could be a win for you.
Yeah, there's a couple things to unpack what your question was, and I agree. I think the franchise opportunity is something we're definitely open to. I think I've got a lot of house to get in order prior to getting there. Like, I got to walk before I run. We've got the demand, and we're making revenue doing what we're doing, and it's definitely going the right direction. But I've got a whole list of tools, from marketing, branding, our social media, our financing. And here's an example. If I make $20,000 in Anthony, Kansas, I'm licensed as a corporation in Caldwell County, Missouri. How do I go from a taxation standpoint? What's going on there? I've had 3 different experts tell me 3 different things, right? Referencing tax code differently. And so do I, if I'm being paid for the event, but then we make $20,000 in revenue from the kite sales on the retail side, am I paying Anthony, Kansas county and city tax because the point of sale was there? What if somebody from Anthony orders $10,000 worth of kites online? And it's just a really complex environment. And we've literally fallen into this with almost a reckless abandon and a lot of energy and passion, because this is really what we started doing. You can see these big events, but when you're sitting there literally making revenue doing it, but not understanding the tax implications, that's, in my opinion, what we got to figure out long before any kind of scalability from a franchisee standpoint. So I'm not sure I'm there yet, because I would be embarrassed to sit down at the table and have an informed decision and discussion about that, because I think we'd get butchered on other housekeeping items first. That's just my opinion and where we're at. Maybe scale 2, scale 3, or phase 2, phase 3 for us. So.
Question right up here up front.
Awesome.
A couple of things. This kite, for example, that whale you had there, looks more like a balloon, so why do you call it a kite?
Because it is a kite. I mean, it flies just like any other kite. It's bridled just like your Delta kite you had when you were a kid. It's just a lot bigger. It uses air. If you can see the crab's mouth, so air goes in the crab's mouth at a higher rate that can leave. It's made out of ripstop nylon, very similar to parachute material. And that creates pressure. That pressure then, as you stitch and sew and pattern can create literally endless 3D sculptures, or it's what you see in the Macy's Day Parade. And so to me, they're show kites. I think there's an industry kind of already matured around that. These are available. People can order these. The average kite, you're going to spend anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per kite on a range, and they can go up from there. But to me, the word kite to me reinforces what the revenue goals are too, if you really think about it. And Great American Kites is really named after my service to country, and it's kind of fitting today that 75 years ago today, Pearl Harbor was attacked. So to me, I wanted to stay true to that. I'm very proud of my service. You won't see me in Kaepernick hanging out, right? I'm just proud of that. And so that's where it came from. But to get kids and potential customers engaged in coming out and spending revenue, right? I want them to know it's a kite festival. If I called them something too far gone from that, I'm afraid it would lose its impact. I mean, all the kids know when this kite festival is going on anywhere within a 5-county area. And so it's a big deal. We don't have a problem getting people to the events. We have other hidden risks, weather and some things like that. We're in the outdoor events business. But we have a problem, I think, keeping the house in order from a business standpoint. Those are things that just aren't inherently strong points to me, and so I like to surround myself with people that do. We know we can make money doing it. We've proven that. Our first year has far exceeded our goals. So where's my marketing partner, and how do they make this unique? Because we're so unique. Where's the right taxation partner? Because it is unique, and there's got to be a right answer, right? We would be very similar to a shaved ice vendor, a kettle corn vendor that goes out on the festival, or the Lollapalooza tour, something like that. If they're selling $30,000 worth of hot dogs that day, those folks have a very similar transaction. We're just selling kites.
You are very right to identify all the shortcomings.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question is, what are you doing about it? Because when, just picking up on what somebody else said, you have the traditional diamond-shaped kite as your logo, as part of your logo.
Yeah.
And so breaking out of that thinking among your customers is part of what your partners need to do, because you have a great business, but going to where you want to go, I think comes down to finding the right people that you can work with.
Yeah, I'd say we're partnering. We continue to partner and explore partnerships with companies that can help us shore up the weaknesses in our foundation, right? These are what I would call our high-level weaknesses, right? I talked about taxation. How do we get organized electronically? You know, I still struggle with that. Right now we're principally a cash business, so that's what we do. What about the folks that come up and they want to use a Square card reader or something like that? How can we do that and then tie that into our inventory? How do I know which event over 5 years has sold the best, right? Is it the Disney kites? Is it the Frozen kites? Those kind of things, right? So I need better data and analytics, and so I need a platform that does that. We've sat on some webinars and had some advice around Shopify and some other CRM technology. How can we do campaigns out to that? And that's what I think about when I think of a totally integrated marketing strategy, and that's a partnership that we're seeking right now. So that's a great question.
So our final question for you is, I know you've gone over all of your requests from the crowd.
Yep.
But is the number one thing that you're asking from the community is marketing help?
Yeah, I would say if there's a partner out there, that's a weak spot. I would say taxation is a weak spot. And marketing is a big term. It's like saying information technology to me. I would say for anybody else that hasn't gone, just do yourself a favor and go to the event. Go to our Facebook page, like us, and you'll get updates on when our next events are. And just get out of the house, get off the smartphone and do it. Get engaged. Make the most out of what's left in your life and with your family and the people that you care about. But to the other partners that are out there that might potentially have some ability to help us get organized in that standpoint, we've got a great thing going, and it's just a matter of taking it to the next level. And I'd love to come back in a year and show you how much farther we've chipped away at our goals, right? So year one for us has been phenomenal. So I would just say help us in any way you can, and I'll be available after the event.
Great, thank you so much for your presentation. Thanks everybody for coming out today. I do have a Chris Foster Christmas CD, so first person to come fight me for it gets it. And then next week we have Ruby Jeans, Juicery, and Brew Indie presenting, so we hope to see you. It's our last event of the year. Thank you.